a WikiVidi Documentaries production. Don't forget to like and subscribe. Enjoy. Halloween, 2018 film. Halloween is a 2018 American slasher film directed by David Gordon Green and written by Green, Jeff Fradley, and Danny McBride. It is the 11th installment in the Halloween franchise, and a direct sequel to the 1978 film of the same name, while retconning the continuity of the previous sequels. Set 40 years after the original film, the plot follows Laurie Strode, who's prepared to face Michael Myers in a final showdown 40 years after escaping his previous killing spree on Halloween night. Jamie Lee Curtis and Nick Castle reprise their roles as Strode and Myers, respectively, with stuntman James Jude Courtney also portraying Myers. The film also stars Judy Greer, Andi Matichak, Patton, and Virginia Gardner. After failing to develop a new Halloween film in time, Dimension Films lost the production rights, which were later obtained by Blumhouse Productions, with original co-creator John Carpenter's involvement as a composer, executive producer, and creative consultant. Principal photography commenced on January 13, 2018, in South Carolina, and concluded on February 19. The film premiered at the Toronto International Film Festival on September 8, and is scheduled for release in the United States on October 19, 2018, by Universal Pictures. The film received positive reviews from critics, who considered it to be a return to form for the series, and lauded Curtis' performance. Plot: 40 years after the Haddonfield murders in 1978, two journalists, Aaron Corey and Dana Haynes, travel to Smith's Grove Sanitarium to interview Michael Myers, who was captured after Dr. Samuel Loomis shot him off of the dollhouse balcony at the end of the movie. Dr. Andi Matichak, Michael's new psychiatrist after Dr. Loomis' death, inform them that Michael is able to speak, but chooses not to. Dana records the event as Aaron approaches Michael and talks to him, but fails to get him to speak, even after showing him his mask and mentioning Laurie Strode. The two journalists leave Smith's Grove Sanitarium and drive to Laurie's house, a heavily fortified and decrepit homestead, and bribe her for an interview, which she reluctantly accepts. Laurie has spent the last 40 years dealing with post-traumatic stress and preparing for Michael's inevitable return. Her feelings have resulted in two failed marriages and losing custody of her daughter Karen at a young age. Aaron and Dana tell Laurie their interest in finding out why Michael committed the murders in 1978 and ask her to meet with him in a final attempt to get him to speak before he's transferred to a maximum security prison. Laurie kicks them out of her house, but not before taking the money they offered. As the transport is being prepared and patients are loaded onto the bus, Dr. Sartain insists on accompanying Michael, and the bus departs. In Haddonfield, Laurie's granddaughter and Karen's daughter, Allison, is walking to school with two friends and tells them the stress that her family endures due to her grandmother's past, and debunks the town rumor that Michael is Laurie's brother. In class, Allison looks out of the window to see Laurie watching her. She meets with her grandmother, who gives her the $3,000 from Aaron and Dana and tells her to have fun. During a family dinner at Karen's house, Laurie arrives and has a panic attack and Allison comforts her. Meanwhile, the bus transport crashed in a ditch, the security guards were killed, and the inmates were scattered about the road. A man and his son driving down the road happen upon the bus and investigate. While the father disappears, his son grabs a rifle from the truck and encounters a fatally wounded security guard that tells him to run. He investigates the bus and is startled by Dr. Sartain, shooting him in the shoulder accidentally. Fleeing back to the truck, he calls the police. Michael appears from the back seat and kills him. The following morning, Sheriff Frank Hawkins explains to a deputy that Michael Myers escaped the transport and will most certainly return to Haddonfield to finish what he started 4 decades prior. Aaron and Dana arrive at a gas station. Dana leaves Aaron to use the bathroom while he goes inside to pay for the gas. With the inside of the station deserted, he stumbles upon a dead mechanic missing his overalls and a cashier whose jaw was ripped open. Meanwhile, Michael attacks Dana in the bathroom, and when Aaron arrives to save Dana, Michael kills him by bashing him into the door numerous times, killing him, before strangling Dana to death. Michael inspects their vehicle and recovers his mask, putting it on. Laurie learns about the transport crash and breaks into Karen's house to demonstrate her lack of security. After a brief argument about Michael with Karen and her husband, Ray, Laurie leaves and heads to the gas station in time to witness the bodies of Aaron and Dana being recovered. On Halloween night, Michael wanders a populated street in Haddonfield, littered with families and children trick-or-treating. He finds his way into a shed behind a house and takes a hammer before going inside to kill the sole occupant. He replaces the hammer with a kitchen knife and moves to the house next door, killing another woman by stabbing the knife through her throat. Allison is at a school-sanctioned Halloween party with her friends and receives a call from Vicky, inviting her to come over once Julian, the kid she's babysitting, falls asleep. Allison gets into an altercation with her boyfriend, Cameron, who throws her phone, just as Laurie was calling to warn her to go home. At Julian's house, he tells Vicky that he saw a masked man standing in the doorway. But Vicky dismisses it as his imagination and puts Julian to bed as her boyfriend, Dave, arrives. As Vicky checks the closet at Julian's request, she opens the door and is attacked by Michael, who was hiding inside. Julian flees the house and calls the police. Laurie, patrolling the streets in her truck, hears the dispatch call on her CB radio and hurries to the house, where Sheriff Hawkins is investigating. He finds Vicky's corpse, and Laurie shoots Michael through a window, only to find out it's his reflection in a mirror. Laurie and Hawkins patrol behind the neighboring houses and find Michael. Laurie shoots him, but as she turns the corner, Michael is gone. Allison ditches her boyfriend at the party and allows her friend Oscar to walk her home. Allison rejects his advances and Oscar lags behind, spotting Michael watching him. Oscar tries to escape, but is caught on a fence and Michael impales him. Allison turns back and finds Oscar's body and is chased by Michael before finding refuge in a neighboring home. Karen and Ray arrive at Laurie's fortified home and wait for Allison to arrive. Hawkins encounters Dr. Sartain and in turn, find Allison during their search for Michael. Finding Michael, Hawkins runs him over with the police SUV and gets out of the vehicle to shoot Michael at point-blank range, despite Dr. Sartain's protests. Dr. Sartain stabs Hawkins in the throat with a blade hidden inside of a pen and kills him before taking Michael's mask and trying it on. Dr. Sartain loads Michael into the back of the vehicle with Allison and drives to Laurie's house, intent on reuniting them. Michael regains consciousness and reclaims his mask, and Allison informs Dr. Sartain that Michael spoke to her. Distracted by demanding to know what Michael said, Michael breaks through the security barrier, forces Dr. Sartain out of the vehicle, and stomps on his head as Allison flees on foot. Ray steps outside to offer coffee to the police officers stationed outside Laurie's house and finds them dead. Michael appears behind Ray and strangles him. Laurie alerts Karen to Michael's arrival and sends her into the hidden safe room as she locks and barricades the front door. Michael breaks through the glass panels in the door and attacks Laurie, who escapes by shooting Michael's hand with a shotgun, stripping him of 2 fingers, forcing him to retreat. Laurie patrols her house room by room and seals each room off with security gates. Laurie encounters Michael upstairs. Allison arrives as Laurie and Michael stab each other and witnesses Laurie fall from the balcony. When she investigates, Laurie is gone and Allison makes her way into the safe room with Karen, who alerts Michael. As he appears, Karen shoots him with a rifle and stuns him. Laurie appears from the shadows and attacks Michael, sending him tumbling down the steps into the safe room. Karen and Allison leave the safe room, but Michael regains consciousness and grabs Karen's ankle. Allison stabs Michael with his own knife and the two escape the room. Laurie flips a switch and metal bars spring into place, barricading the exit and trapping Michael in the safe room as it fills with gas. Laurie lights a flare and tosses it through the bars, setting the room ablaze with Michael in it. Laurie, Karen, and Allison escape as the house is engulfed in flames and hitch a ride in the back of a pickup truck coming down the road. The three women embrace as they're taken to safety. Development. In 2011, a sequel to 2009's Halloween 2, titled Halloween 3D, was announced to be released on October 26, 2012. At the time of the announcement, no director or writer was attached to the project. Originally, Patrick Lussier and Todd Farmer were labeled as writers, but dropped out due to their occupancy on the Hellraiser reboot. The film was to pick up where the final frame of its predecessor left off, and would pay homage to the original version of Michael Myers from the 1978 film. It was dropped from its release schedule of October 26, 2012, as no progress had been made. In February 2015, Patrick Melton and Marcus Dunstan reportedly would be writing a new Halloween film, described as a recalibration rather than a reboot, along with Malek Akkad and Matt Stein producing. On June 15, 2015, the Weinstein Company was reported to be moving ahead with another Halloween sequel, tentatively titled Halloween Returns, with Dunstan directing. It would have been a standalone film set to reintroduce audiences to Michael Myers years after his initial rampage from Halloween and 1981's Halloween 2, as he was confronted by a new generation of victims while on death row. On October 22, 2015, producer Malek Akkad revealed that the production of Halloween Returns had been postponed, stating that the extra time would result in a better film. Malek said on the matter, "Although, I have to say, and this is somewhat new news, but unfortunately things happen in Hollywood where you have issues with studios and different variables. We've had to take a step back and now we're trying to refigure this beast that is the new Halloween. So there is a bit of a delay. But this new Halloween isn't going to be quite what has been announced and what people are expecting, so we're making some changes there as well." In December 2015, it was announced that Dimension Films no longer had the filming rights to Halloween, after Halloween Returns failed to go into production on schedule. The film's cancellation was confirmed at the same time. On May 24, 2016, Blumhouse Productions and Miramax were announced to be co-financing a new film. Blumhouse CEO Jason Blum called the original Halloween a milestone that had influenced the company to begin making horror films. The great Malek Akkad and John Carpenter have a special place in the hearts of all genre fans, and we are so excited that Miramax brought us together. The rights specifically went to Miramax and Tarek Akkad, who sought out Blum because of his success as a horror film producer. Writing and pre-production. When John Carpenter, who had co-written the first two Halloween films with Deborah Hill and directed the original, signed on as an executive producer in 2016, he described his intention, 38 years after the original Halloween, "I'm going to help to try to make the 10th sequel the scariest of them all." He discussed his reasoning for revisiting the series for the first time since producing 1982's Halloween 3, Season of the Witch. In an interview with Rotten Tomatoes, "I talked about the Halloweens for a long time. The sequels, I haven't even seen all of them. But finally it occurred to me, well, if I'm just flapping my gums here, why don't I try to make it as good as I can? So, stop throwing rocks from the sidelines and get in there and try to do something positive." When the rights were acquired by Blumhouse, filmmaker Adam Wingard discussed making a new Halloween film, but ultimately dropped out after being sated by an email of encouragement from Carpenter. "I kinda walked away from it like, I just got everything I wanted out of this job. This is about as good as it gets." David Gordon Green and Danny McBride were publicized on February 9, 2017 to handle screenwriting duties, with Green directing and Carpenter advising the project. Carpenter said that he was impressed with the pitch presented by the co-writers, solicited by Jason Blum, proclaiming that they get it, rather than reboot the series again. They chose to focus primarily on continuing the mythology of the first two films when developing the story, with Danny McBride stating, "We all came to the decision that remaking something that already works isn't a good idea, so we just have a reimagining instead." The pitch was created by the writers specifically to present to Carpenter, as they were self-described fans of the original Halloween to begin with. The story was eventually fleshed out so that all of the sequels were ignored from continuity, and the ending of the first film was retconned in what McBride likened to an alternate reality. However, he later said that the film still pays tribute to the other films, despite sharing no direct continuity. "You know, like Terry's so many different versions, and the timeline is so mixed up, we just thought it would be easier to go back to the source and continue from there. It was nicer than knowing you're working on Halloween 11. It just seemed cooler. We are making Halloween 2. For fans, we pay homage and respect to every Halloween that has been out there." Despite Green and McBride's comedy roots, Halloween was distanced from the comedy genre. McBride further elaborated that, "I think there was, like, maybe one joke on the page, but the rest is straight horror." Believing that good horror movie directors are good directors, Jason Blum hired Green for his perceived, amazing, storytelling. No large steps were taken without Carpenter's approval, including the acceptance of the initial pitch and bringing back actress Jamie Lee Curtis, displeased with Rob Zombie's reimagining and added backstory of murderer Michael Myers. Carpenter wanted to take the character back to his more mysterious roots, describing him as a force of nature. He's supposed to be almost supernatural. McBride detailed his approach as humanizing the character. "I think we're just trying to take it back to what was so good about the original. It was just very simple and just achieved that level of horror that wasn't turning Michael Myers into some being that couldn't be killed. I want to be scared by something that I really think could happen. I think it's much more horrifying to be scared by someone standing in the shadows while you're taking the trash out." Casting. In September 2017, Jamie Lee Curtis confirmed that she would reprise her role as Laurie Strode. In contrast to the character's final girl role in the original film, Laurie armed herself and prepared extensively in the time period between films in case Michael Myers ever returned. Although Halloween 2 and its latter installments have portrayed Myers as a familicidal killer and Laurie as his sister, the writers felt that the added motive made him less frightening as a killer. As such, they intentionally ignored that aspect of the lore. In the trailer for the film, Strode's granddaughter, played by Andi Matichak, explains how her life has been impacted by Michael's reign of terror 40 years earlier. When a friend hints that they heard Michael was Laurie's brother, Matichak's character replies, "No, it was not her brother. That was something people made up." The writers did not originally know if Curtis would be willing to return, according to McBride. So they busted their ass on this script to really make that Laurie Strode character something she wouldn't be able to say no to. On why she returned, Curtis stated, "As soon as I read what David Green and Danny McBride had come up with, and the way that they connected the dots of the story, it made so much sense to me that it felt totally appropriate for me to return to Haddonfield, Illinois, for another 40th anniversary retelling. It's the original story in many, many, many ways, just retold 40 years later with my granddaughter." Curtis had previously returned as Laurie in the sequels Halloween 2, Halloween H20, 20 years later, and Halloween, Resurrection. The following October, Judy Greer entered negotiations to play Laurie's daughter Karen Strode. Danielle Harris, who played Laurie's daughter Jamie Lloyd in the original continuities Halloween 4 and Halloween 5, contacted Blumhouse with the offer to reprise her role in some way. But the studio planned to go with a different daughter character. To Harris' disappointment, I was okay with it when she had a son. But they're saying it's the last one and she has a daughter. And it's not Jamie. It's just kind of a bummer, I guess. On December 7, 2017, Andi Matichak was cast to play Laurie's granddaughter Allison. On December 20, 2017, it was announced that Nick Castle, who portrayed Michael Myers in the original film, would be reprising his role, with actor and stuntman James Jude Courtney set to portray Myers as well. Courtney was suggested to Malek Akkad and David Gordon Green by stunt coordinator Ron Hutchinson for his ability to do both physical stunts and genuine acting, auditioning afterwards and receiving a phone call in December 2017 affirming that he had landed the role. Green explained to him his vision for Myers' mannerisms, an amalgamation of Castle's original performance and the addition of an efficient cat-like style of movement. Courtney tailored his portrayal to those specifications from observing an actual cat. I think cats are the most perfect hunting machines on the planet. And the beauty of it is we don't judge a cat for what a cat does. So I sort of carried that movement and the non-judgmental approach to the way I moved as the shape, which I learned from my cat Parsifal. He referred to collaborating with Castle as an honor, with Castle describing it as a passing of the torch. He used John Carpenter and Castle's work on the original film to determine how the 40 years that transpired between the events of the films would inform the character over time. On January 13, 2018, Virginia Gardner, Miles Robbins, Dylan Arnold and Drew Scheid were confirmed to play Allison's friends, respectively. On January 16, 2018, Will Patton was publicized to have joined the film's roster. He was later joined by Rob Reiter, both actors being announced to portray police officers, as well as British actress Rhiannon Rees, who was cast as a character named Dana. Speaking of the cast, Nick Castle stated that, "What I like about this is they've got some really good young actors. They fleshed out the relationship of Jamie's character with her daughter and her granddaughter. And they made some choices that I think are really bold choices about who these people are and why they are the way they are now." On July 27, 2018, it was announced that a sound-alike actor would provide a voice-over for Dr. Sam Loomis, who was originally portrayed by Donald Pleasance. Brought to you by WikiVidi Documentaries. Would you like to know more?